G'day, welcome to another episode of the Fox and the Hedgehog. My name's Alistair King, I'm your host, and we're very fortunate that we are joined today by GSB Architecture. Welcome, lads.
Thank you.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
So I thought we just might lead off in some open questions just about you guys, how you became architects, and then also a little bit about GSB Architecture, what you focus in on, and where you like to play.
Cool. You lead?
Sure. I guess we'll start by introducing ourselves. I'm Alessandro. This is Henry. We are 2 of 3 of the founding directors of GSB Architecture. Our partner Rob couldn't join today, but GSB obviously stands for Goodwin, Scarfoni, the second partner, Belgiorno-Nettis. We are old friends from university. We met in 2010.
Yep.
Went through university together, left uni and started working for some other businesses,
Right.
gained some experience, and then very quickly realized we wanted to, work for ourselves and, explore the world of architecture on our own. So we founded GSB in 2018.
2018. Yep.
And have,
Haven't looked back.
back.
If I could encapsulate GSB with what you're about, it's really that you facilitate bespoke designs to meet a client's needs. But I would say that I would see you as sort of at the forefront of modern city living. Do you think that's fair? Is that a fair analysis?
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, based on where our office is based in Redfern, a lot of our sites are inner west. They're tight. They have lots of overlays, a heritage overlay, adjoining neighbours. They're generally terrace houses. So yes, there's lots of complications.
Yeah. Well, I mean, part of the issue is you've got to deal with the planning process of inner city living.
Yeah.
Secondly, you got to try to make the most with the finite space. You're not, architecture in Australia, I think, used to be about large suburban dreams, and it's now pivoted to, quite small, tight spaces, and then how do you make the most, and how, what is good architecture within that? So
definitely, that's where we sit.
That's definitely where we sit. And I think the other challenge is that our clients are often of our generation. They're not really well off. They're people that are working really hard, trying to set themselves up, and all that they can afford is, as you mentioned, these tight, restrictive sites. And so
the location of where they buy is, our generation, we buy where we want to live, surrounded by the services that we want, the restaurants close to the city, public transport, et cetera, and that lends itself to a smaller, site area.
And often a building that is deteriorating or
that also comes with a hefty price tag, based on its proximity to all of those things. So we are left with the joy of a relatively tight site with lots of complications, and also a tight budget, and accommodating for the future. So growing families is one of our and multi-generational living is definitely.
And we just honed in on a couple of things that quite interest me, and one of them is values with your architecture, and how do you think about values with architecture? And if a client comes to you, is that what are the sort of leading questions? Do you get straight into solution, or are you more finding out about them? What are they interested in? What do they consider to be practical?
I mean, meeting the brief is obviously first and foremost. So understanding how they live, what their future is, what the purpose of the renovation is critical at the get-go, to make sure that we're aligned and that we're a good fit for what they want to achieve. And then our values are obviously projected early on, so that, I think when dealing with an architect and going through the process, it's a long process, and people need to be reminded that we're going to be working closely together for 3 to 5 years, depending on the project. So making sure that they are aligned with what our standpoint is on materiality, sustainability, the size of what we're trying to do, et cetera, is all really important. So we do project those values early.
Yeah. No, well, and the reason I bring about values is that, I think art and architecture are so intertwined, and usually, it leads in with art because that's where all the ideas and thought and people bring about these new trying to be edgy, brainwaves they have in the art world. And then I sort of feel that then translate almost to architecture as well, where just like sculpture, my uncle's a sculptor, and that he will do quasi architectural frames and frameworks like at a quite a large scale. And I kind of see the absolute interlinkage between the two. But how do you guys think about art? Do you, what do you go and check out art galleries and artists? Do you then go and see what's at the forefront of the art world before you lean into architecture, or is that not as prevalent?
I mean, it's a
You're
funny
opening
one.
up a
Yeah. My dad is an artist and an architect.
Awesome.
So I grew up in a household bursting at the seams with art, and he was very much at the intersection of the two. He did public works, and his whole practice and life is built off the intersection of art and architecture. So it's definitely been a part of the
Your
thinking
life.
in my life. Definitely your life as well.
My life
in
as
the
well.
sense
I mean,
that your mum's an artist, and
mum's an artist. My grandfather was, a patron of the arts a long time ago, and sort of passed that on to my dad and now our generation. And I think the other thing that we also consider a lot in our practice is working with artisans. And so, if there's any steel fabrication that needs to be done, we're not just going to go to, your generic steel fabricator. We're going to go to somebody who, is an artist in their practice. That's right. And so, when we design shelves, or if it's a stainless steel kitchen bench top, it's got to be done with that sort of artistic touch. And I think across our practice we look at every detail in that same regard.
I love it. I just think that there's obviously there's some great ideas that emerge, and I suppose from that, have you seen any ideas, or where are you seeing the ideas prepping from at the moment? Do you think Australia's going quite well, or globally, or is it more
I think in a weird sort of not anti-art, but in a funny way, our practice is focusing on, we're very much solutions based at the moment. There's the housing crisis that we're dealing with, that our generation is facing a lot. That's a real day-to-day conversation that we're having with our clients, how to navigate the housing market, what to buy, where to buy, and what can I do with it. So a lot of our job is quite practical, and from that comes this sort of network of material solutions, sustainability solutions. So the product is very much the end result of what we're looking at or talking about is a product of a series of things that can generate an outcome, rather than we're not really, our practice at least at the moment, we're not in the sort of testing and experimental phase, which I think we were quite early on.
I think it's like every young architect's dream to to do the craziest design you can do, and it's a good learning process to do that. But you very quickly learn that you can't just do anything, right? Like there's the costs associated with that. There's time, there's budgets and meeting clients' expectations. And so over time we've quickly realized, along with these external forces that we're dealing with, that we need to be practical, functional, delivering timeless, delivering outcomes and solutions for our clients that really deliver that value, which is I think something we'll talk about later maybe, but that suits them and this point in time, and then obviously being a bit looking into the future a little bit.
It's super, super interesting, and I think ultimately you've hit the nail on the head, where people in a lot of people in our generation, they get as much money they can, and then they put it into their house, and then they spend a lot of time paying off that house. And obviously they come to you seeking advice on, hey, look, I've got this asset, which is a house. it's going to last me for 10 years, and then I probably want to sell it. And then how do you guys articulate that to your clients and think about, that 10-year plan? Are you, I suppose it's case by case by buyer, but, how do you manage that conversation about adding value onto a property?
It's an interesting one, and it's a conversation. It's actually a question that we ask our clients in the very first meeting: is what is the plan, regardless of what we're trying to do? Add a bedroom or a bathroom, etc. How long are you going to be here for? How you intend on living in this space for how long? And we go through. There's sort of different approaches from a design point of view. If they're buying to flip, if they've got a 5-year, if they've got a 10-year, or if this is the forever home. And each of those generally comes with a different budget, funnily enough. And that just affects the overall outcome.
And a different energy.
And a different energy and a different flavour. I mean, the best outcomes, but by far, from an architectural point of view and just a living point of view, is when the client says, this is the home. This is where I want to be. I might be here for 5 years. I might be here for 10. I might be here forever. I'm going to design for me and my family. And now, and that's definitely where we see the best outcomes.
Very interesting.
But I think that also
from a design point of view.
From a design point of view, but it's also a great challenge for us to design for multiple different occupants over time, like to consider what another family might do in the future in the home, and to make sure that the design is not.
As a designer, I absolutely hate doing that, because you kind of get stuck in the trap of design. The client and you start to design for anyone and everyone. And then in the process, you're almost designing for no one.
But I think you're probably thinking, as the lead designer, more about details, materiality, finishes. I'm probably thinking more about overall planning, longevity, external materials, how much upkeep is there. Like if you were to go and sell a house, you don't want the potential buyer to go, that cladding or that material needs heaps of work, or is going to need painting or finishing every year. And so you do have to consider that,
of course. And our sort of design manifesto leans into that. Regardless of whether they're staying there for 5 minutes or 50 years, we're always we're interested in sustainable materials, but also materials that require as minimal upkeep as possible. We've just found that along the way, given the climate and the nature of how people live today, work schedules, children, everything's very busy, and people have less and less time to work on their homes and be present within their homes.
So does that mean that you're seeing a lot more of people who will come to you and they'll say, look, I want to do this now, and then I've got my stage, that's stage one because that's my budget, and then stage two in 1 or 2 years will be this. Are you seeing a lot of that at the moment?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, at least 50%.
50%. Yeah, one of our clients. Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah, no, and how do you manage that? Is it more where you quarantine one room? Does that add an extra layer of cost, or you see it as, well, not really?
We tackle it still as a single package in a way, because we're always designing for the 2 stages at the one time, regardless of when they're constructed. They have to be cohesive. So for us, it's still looking at the big picture. How they execute is in their hands, basically. We always do go, I don't know whether this is contentious or not, I've never really thought about it, but we do advise our clients to, if they can, do it in the one go, to avoid paying for things twice. I mean, when you build, you just have a set of preliminaries that you have to pay for, site setup costs and things like that. So if you do stage the build, they have to understand that they are double dipping.
Yeah, I suppose the design wouldn't change regardless. That's more a project management.
But fencing,
all of that kind of
portaloos, all that stuff that you're taking on and off the site twice.
Even just secondary consultants that certify being engaged, paperwork, the sort of red tape around.
It does add up.
Stopping and starting.
Annoying stuff.
Yeah.
And then I suppose we talked a little. You just touched on it. Was intergenerational living, and thinking about the long term. Granny flats, I know, very popular at the moment. I've got a garage, and I'm wondering the value out of a granny flat. Like, how do you guys articulate granny flats? Do you think they're a good investment?
We're big advocates.
You're big advocates.
Yeah. I think being the age that we are, Sandra and I both have young kids, and having the ability to have parents and friends stay over and help, all of those things are valuable.
Yeah.
And a granny flat is such a versatile value add. It can be used for 101 different things over the course of its lifetime, whether that be the traditional sort of secondary dwelling for someone else, or the home office, which is now such a prominent addition that everyone needs to make, because they're only going to work sort of 2 days into the office, sort of 2 to 3 days a week. So, and then as kids get older, with the sort of foreseeable market, they have
a place
to evolve independently without being in the main dwelling. They sort of have a sense of independence, and something to look forward to. So I think they're a great asset.
But not everyone. The other thing that is tricky is that not everyone can have a granny flat.
Yeah, I mean, our inner city sites
are so small that
hard.
So we often look at maybe attic spaces as that sort of breakout space, or walls that might be operable and come out to turn one space into two. That kind of thing is also a good solution.
Yeah, okay. And then, how have you guys seen managing council and DA's approvals and the like? Is that changing at the moment?
Definitely.
Like, are you seeing it being a lot easier? Because there are some horror stories where it takes 3 to 4 years to get
the horror stories for us are definitely very much over. Councils are really under the pump
to get stuff done
from state government, based on the things that we were talking about earlier. From DA approval, holdups are a huge contributing factor to things happening. It's a real obstacle. So our DAs are very much being approved faster.
We're also designing. Sorry.
No, you go.
I was going to say, we're also probably designing maybe slightly more
conservative, within the boundaries.
Within
the boundaries,
because you know what you can get away with.
Well,
not get away with, but you know what the rules are.
We know obviously we know
what council likes and what they don't like.
Yeah. But I think coming back to that earlier point, like, maybe people were more risk taking in their approach prior to COVID. Maybe there was building costs were lower. Maybe they had a little bit more time. And so they would want more money, and they would take a bigger risk on the design. They might push the envelope a little bit, more height, more FSR, whatever it might be. And that's kind of come back a bit, where people are like, I need this now. I don't have much money, and I've got to get the approval really quickly. And so, I think we're probably a shameless plug. We have 100% strike rate.
Yeah. And you'll manage that process with council, or will you deal with that?
It's a bit of a play that we have in our business, is that we have a strong relationship with one town planner that we use across all of our projects, and their firm has very good relationships with people in council. Architects and council town planners have a notorious ability to not get along with one another. So, and early on, we got a lot of questions from clients. Do you have experience with this council? And that's sort of obstructive in the early stages of building a business, because you haven't done a house on your own in that suburb with that council, and you say no, and they go, we'll go to the next architect.
The chicken and the egg. How do you
do
relationship?
It? So we quickly pivoted, and we used the one town planner who has really good high-ranking relationships with most of the councils. She deals directly with council, and we sort of respond under that vessel, basically,
awesome.
which has really smooth.
changer.
Planners
Total game
talk.
changer.
Planners talking to planners.
Yeah.
They get it. She feeds really clear feedback to us. We respond and have so far. I mean, happy days. 100%.
Yeah. Awesome.
It's
No
really good.
complaints on our end.
Yeah, I mean, as you're talking about there, it's like speaking the same language,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
and I suppose you're feeding that then back into the client, saying, look, we don't think this will get through council or it will, but you've had no problems with that at the moment. So now I suppose let's pivot to the future. What are you thinking? What do you guys see as the future of architecture? In maybe you deal a lot within a city. Do you see it going up, or do you think it's more as people get older, they're going to stay in the same houses? Where maybe just general question about where do you see
it's a really good
architecture
question.
pivoting?
It's a good question. I think we're definitely advocates of density. So all the stuff that's happening with the LMR, all that work is a step in the right direction. And we see the suburbs that people wanting to live in within a sort of radius of the coast and the city densifying, which is great, and should be leaned into as much as possible.
Does that mean you sort of see possible high-rise mandates for you guys? Like, is that where you?
I think mid-rise would be great.
Yeah,
really capitalizing on amalgamating sites and putting, a stomachable height limit on things in an urban setting. So not really high-rise from a living point of view, because high-rise is also kind of isolating. There's a sweet spot. In the middle there.
Which is interesting because the two planning changes that they've made, the low to medium density residential zoning and then the TOD transport oriented development sites, have delivered these quite unique outcomes where the LMR zones are, as Henry's saying, mid-rise, 4 to 6 stories, obviously within these transport hubs, and that's probably what we're interested in doing, and that is the right scale. But then some of the TOD set developments that are 150 meters high, a little bit jarring in that locality because there's nothing else there of that scale.
Yeah, and I think we're just sort of getting used to it, that we will have to have more density around the hubs, and as sort of like a pyramid effect, you'll have the sort of medium bleeding into the lower single residence.
Yeah, well, I reflect on this in Redfern. A lot of the those medium blocks, they're kind of Stalinistic, some of them. And I wonder what's the gentrification that can happen with those big blocks. And I think possibly an answer could be going up and renewal, because some of them aren't the prettiest of buildings. But have you reflected on what you think is the future for some of those historic medium density blocks?
Are you talking specifically about social housing? And
housing, or? Well, it's more just the actual buildings themselves, less than the actual occupants. What's happening with the...
As a blanket statement, it's really
so
hard.
Careful.
Got to say the right thing. But I think the fine grain of Redfern is what makes Redfern, and the hat has to stay. Getting rid of them is something that we would advocate hardly against.
Yeah, totally.
And we think that they are extremely important. They deserve to be there, and they should be there. The height of them, again, is as I mentioned earlier, is kind of isolating. So I think there is something to be said about the future and
maybe that's why I throw the it's just a brainwave of could you keep going up, and but maybe
it's funny one. It's the two isolators is the elevator and the car. The higher you go, there's a lot of people who are quite old, and they just get stuck up in space, and then you've got the other thing where they're traveling really far away and they're isolated outwards. We are, from an architectural point of view, interested in that middle ground, and how to manage the sort of social balance within that scale.
Yeah, because they're huge blocks.
They're massive.
A lot of them.
And, hundreds of residents, large management fees. I think in answer to your question, you would renew the buildings.
Yes.
You wouldn't demolish them. You wouldn't add floors to them.
No.
But
Yeah.
Right.
renewing them, maybe adding a mix of social, affordable, and regular housing.
Yeah, some balconies, some
balconies.
shading.
There
You
are
know,
some-
we
yeah.
look at them every day at lunch,
Yeah.
and
Think of the opportunity.
well, it's
Lots more.
it's an opportunity,
renewal.
but it's also we think about the occupants and such simple, beautiful architectural gestures that could be made to increase their quality of living. So yeah, it's definitely leaning into what Sandro said, which is a renewal version. And there's some great examples around the world of how you can achieve
do that.
like fantastic outcomes.
Yeah, would you look at London? Like, because London's done a lot of
France, I think, is probably the first.
Lacaton and
Lacaton is probably a good reference.
Firm to look at.
Yeah, I mean, England do have good examples of social housing, but I think they've fallen into the same trap that we have, where it's very stark. You have the social housing building, you know, and then next to the beautiful terrace that is extremely valuable and you know, high end. And
yeah, the socio-economic sort of divide is clear.
How do you balance that?
How do you balance that?
Yeah, sorry, I was more looking at it from a design and architectural point of view than
ours would be for that. It would be a sort of a bolt-on approach.
Yeah, okay, right. Yeah,
interesting. To increase the amenity of the spaces.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's happened here in Redfern now with the Oval and the Metro, it's
booming.
It's booming. Yeah, and it seems to have been, you know, the place to be because it's got that edgy dynamic that I sort of almost feel Newtown's pivoted a little bit, but maybe I could be wrong because Newtown's booming as well.
Well, I mean, I live in Newtown, so I get the walk from one side of the tracks to the other, and they're beautifully diverse in their own ways. I think the sense of community that Redfern has is a real shining light from what we've found. There's, you know,
there aren't many other suburbs this close to the city that have that
such a good
level of diversity and community sense of community.
No, I couldn't agree more. So what I'm sort of hearing is, you know, the future of architecture, you think there's going to be a lot more density, so then making the most out of your space you have is going to be key. Are there any quirks that you feel might add value into those dense spaces, such as water features or you know, I know even in here we see a lot of greenery and quite large plants, which I think is a really nice flavour to bring the outside in. But you know, any
I mean, it's a tricky one. When we're talking about value add, like just sheerly value add, you fall in. You just end up in the trap of it's the numbers game.
Yeah,
you know, what bedroom can I add?
How big can it be?
We've had a couple of people in the more dense parts of the inner west seeking just car spaces. You know, they just need to add. They need to be able to have the backyard that has the roller door with the garage. You know, and getting approval for that, so that they can put the one next to the little car symbol on the for sale board means the world.
Means an extra $250,000 or whatever.
Exactly. So little things like that, I guess, from a value add point of view, are important. And I guess just that constant connectivity from inside to outside. You know, making sure that the spaces are light filled, they work, they breathe. You know, homes doing what they should do. We like to think that we bring a certain lightness in all senses. You know, we don't like heavy, swollen, sort of obese additions. They've got to be complementary and sit nicely within their setting. And with that comes houses that work from a mechanical point of view. They're off the ground. They have subfloor ventilation. They have cross ventilation. All of the really simple principles that you learn quite early on, we lean into quite heavily as part of our architectural play. Yeah.
I love it. And so maybe just closing, Alessandro, like the actual project delivery. You know, what's the most important facet for you? Is it more planning, or how do you? I know it's quite a general question as well.
No, it's a good question. It's probably it's a balance of everything. I think we take client engagement quite seriously. So Henry, Rob, and I are all very engaged from the outset in client management. In a sense, we all attend site, we meet the clients, we build a relationship with them, and that obviously builds trust. So then, Henry will go off and do the design. Rob will do the documentation, and I'll be in the background managing program, budget, timing, all of that kind of stuff. I don't know. I think it's every client's unique.
Yep.
And I think the big lesson that we've learned, to date is to take everyone as they come and
be open-minded,
and
be malleable.
Be malleable. That's right.
It's not a one size fits all game.
Yeah.
And I think architecture
has
well, not to making sure I'm staying positive on the whole profession. But in the past, as the one man sitting at the table drawing, maybe that's sort of shifting a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you mean in terms of the impact of
just the impact of the architect? No, it's just the architect saying this is what you get. You get what you get and don't get upset kind of approach. Right. I think now, whilst we implement what we think is the best, there's a whole other team of stakeholders that are involved in these projects, and you have to be collaborative and you have to be open-minded in order to deliver results that are fitting for the client, fitting for the future, and funnily enough, from a business point of view, are going to lead to a referral or another project in a funny way to add that in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's how the best business is done, is through delivering and then from there, making sure you then build that network and develop on the trust that's generated.
Yeah.
So Henry, Alessandro, thank you so much. Key points from me have been, good design is about being malleable people and meeting the needs of the client.
Yep.
The second component is the density that's going to be coming. And
Fingers
the final
crossed.
thing, well, it's already here and it's coming.
It's coming
further. And the final point will be that intergenerational living that we're seeing more and more of. So thank you so much, guys, for being here, Henry and Alessandro. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.